Welcome to another edition of the Gridiron Report. I'm Jarret Johnson. I'm joined by the mighty Joe Yeager. Well, mighty Joe, in this edition, we are previewing Texas Tech's offense for the 2024 season. And to be honest, I feel like this group has a lot to prove. What do you think?
Yeah. I think some people kind of get a little bit ticked off about people talking about the offensive line. You're belaboring the point, and
right.
It's kind of unpleasant to talk about the danger spots too. But I mean, look. If your offensive line ain't cutting it, then I don't care what else you got, man. So you just really got to kind of wonder what they're going to do. I mean, Texas Tech has not been good on the offensive line for quite some time.
Yeah.
You've got a whole bunch of new guys up there. I believe 4 new starters, and you're looking at like 3 transfers maybe in the starting lineup. Yep. Porsche, Davion Smith, and a couple other guys.
Vinny Scurry.
Yep. So. They hopefully they hit the bullseye.
Yeah.
With these guys this time, because that's really going to tell the tale on will that allow all these other guys like Baron Morton and Taj Brooks and the receivers and a bunch of new receivers too to actually play up to their potential. If so, then the offense should be pretty good. But if not, then you're looking at kind of same old, I think.
Yeah. I feel like with the whole team, I feel much better about. But I have 2 questions. The offensive line, we're going to get to this, of course, quarterback. Those are the 2 positions where I'm not saying that they can't be improved. I'm just saying I'm not taking anybody's word for it. Right. And we didn't see enough in practice to say, oh, well, the offensive line is better. They just didn't show us enough. That's just the truth. So I do like Vinny Scurry from what I've seen from him. I think he is going to be an upgraded guard. What they do with Rogers, because they're talking about maybe him playing right guard, maybe him playing right tackle, which was kind of a surprise to me. I thought Buchanan would be that right tackle.
Right.
That tells me that they may like Davion Carter at guard better than they like Buchanan at right tackle in the starting lineup, more than anything about Caleb Rogers. I think they like Caleb Rogers. He's a team captain, multi-year starter. They like his versatility. It's more about, and I really believe this, I don't think it's just coach speak, getting the best 5 on the field. And much like the kicking competition, which is way off topic, but I think the competition is ongoing. Even if they already have it at this point nailed down who's going to start, I think they're going to take a look at multiple lineups in terms of the offensive line. So definitely be looking for that in the opener against ACU and moving forward. Speaking of quarterback, Baron Morton, he's healthy. I feel confident in saying I've seen him throw, make some big throws. I know it's against air, it's different, but we were talking about just can he make these throws? Does he still have that quick release? And I like to tell the story of the first day of camp. Micah Hudson was running all these routes. It was right by us. It's almost as close as you were where the ball was thrown to him, where he came out of his route. And he'd already caught a couple of passes. And, of course, all eyes were on Micah Hudson, the 5-star phenom recruit. And it got to the turn where Micah was catching a pass from Baron Morton, and it was just a short route. He turned around, and the ball was like on his ear, and it went through his hands. And he kind of, said a bleepity bleep, of course, because he catches most passes. And receivers coach Juice Johnson was right there, and he said, yeah, Baron's passes get there a lot quicker. And he said it in a different way, but that's what he said. And that was kind of like, okay, like his quick release, which is one of the things that stands out the most to me about Baron Morton, is still there. He's still throwing the run. Saw him throw these 60-yard posts that were like right on the money. So in terms of arm strength, Baron's there. That's good. That's a big question answered. Next question, though, is how good is Baron Morton?
Yeah, and I think that you talk about quickness, but another aspect that's going to be really important with him is kind of the opposite of that, patience.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I'm just imagining things or not, but I get the impression that he plays a little bit frenetically at times.
Yeah.
Just a little bit faster than the play that is actually going on. And he tends to rush things instead of kind of chilling out a little bit back there and letting the play develop some more and seeing what options may come open in time. I think he's just a little bit too antsy back there a little bit, for lack of a better word. So that can be an aspect of experience and maturation. Is he going to get to the point where he does sort of take it easy back there a little bit, show a little bit more comfort? Now, that gets back to the offensive line, too. I mean, if you're scared, you're going to get lit up by a 300-pound defensive tackle every time you drop up. Well, that'll make you a little bit yippy in the britches.
Would me, yeah, absolutely.
Would me, too. So, So, I mean, you know, it's all interconnected and everything, but I mean, that's something that I'm looking for out of Barron, just to see him play a little bit more patiently and some maturity and development in that area.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. And Barron, Coach McGuire, Coach Keeley all talked about that at different points of camp. Is just that not just bailing right or left at the first sign of a play breaking down or blocking may not being there. Barron himself said just stepping up in the pocket, just kind of having some more situational awareness, player awareness would be huge in terms of not just him playing better, but him staying healthy possibly as well. So that's definitely something to watch for. You know, I want the offensive line to protect him. I want Kidley to protect him, and I want Barron to protect himself because he needs to stay healthy.
Yes, he does.
That is one of the keys. But backup Cameron Brown, I have to admit, Joe, and we haven't talked about this in person, but he has impressed me. It is off-season quarterback play. How much can you put into that? But in terms of his arm strength and accuracy and everything that I've seen, he looked really good in the spring game. Made some really nice deep passes. And then he showed off some of his athletic ability. He's not like a Donovan Smith as a runner in terms of a power runner, even though he's 6'2", 230. He's a slithery, kind of escape artist and a quick speed burst kind of runner.
Another Michael Vick, huh?
Not Michael Vick, no. There's only one Michael Vick, but or Lamar. But you know, he's definitely got that aspect to his game, and I definitely think we'll see that. I don't think that's just Coach Big. I think we're going to see that throughout the season, starting, you know, against ACU in the opener.
Yeah, you know, it will be interesting to see, you know, to the extent that they run some packages just for him. I know that's been mentioned off and on, and you know, but you hear a lot of things in the off season, and then does it actually transpire? Right. You go back and say, hey, where was this? We heard about this, you know, all fall camp, and then it didn't materialize. So, but you know, it can. I mean, Texas Tech got burned by Avery Johnson, K-State, and apparently that made quite an impression on Joey McGuire.
Right.
So I'd like to have me a little bit of that, right?
Yeah.
And so that may be sort of what triggered bringing in Cameron. And so, you know, you got a guy like that. You brought him in, you might as well use him, right? So I hope we get to see some of that.
And then Will Hammond, the true freshman 4-star Elite 11 finalist, was here in the spring, in the fall. By all accounts, he's actually been better than they were expecting. He's looked really good. He doesn't look like a true freshman out there. And again, it's off-season quarterback play, but you know, he played 6A football, Texas high school football, and he tore it up, put up monster numbers. So he's done everything he could do up to this point. They want to redshirt him. I actually confirmed with Coach McGuire earlier in the week that he is going to play in 4 games, but they want to redshirt him. But I definitely believe they see him as the future. So that really is the quarterback picture. Of course, you have Jake Strong, but I think right now he is 4th in the lineup, and he's just a redshirt freshman. So, I mean, he still has a lot of time. But speaking of true freshmen, there's a couple other ones on offense I'm really excited about. Let's start with Cameron Dickey. Of course, I don't think we've talked, any of us, and I certainly haven't talked enough about Taj Brooks because we just kind of take him for granted. You got that All-American running back, All-American candidate, All Big 12 last year, running back who ran for 1,500 yards. He's 1,200 yards away, or 1,186 yards away from becoming the all-time career rushing leader in Texas Tech history, which is quite an achievement. I don't care. Yeah, I know the difference in terms of how many years he's had and how many carries and all that. He's one of the best running backs, which is a mouthful in Texas Tech history. But you have a really good, I believe, true freshman, good option in Cameron Dickey there to go along with Cameron Valdez.
Yeah, you know, and I think technically he's listed behind Cameron Valdez right now. But that may be more for show than anything else. It may be to benefit Valdez, who seems to be somewhat a volatile personality, perhaps, on matters like this. But I think maybe by the end of the year, who's got more carries, Valdez or Dickey? Yeah, it's probably going to be Dickey. You know,
I agree.
Based upon what we've seen in the past, and what you've seen from Dickey and what we've heard about him. Apparently he's got some resemblances to Taj himself. And that's hard to beat. But back to Taj again a little bit. I mean, what would he do if he had a killer offensive line in front of him? I mean, could you imagine the numbers? I mean, he's had to get so much on his own.
He really has.
What if people up front were like actually opening seams for him?
Right.
What would he do? I mean, you're talking about 2,000-yard rusher.
Maybe, yeah.
So, I mean, if you could, if you can get a little bit out of that offensive line this year, you get some improvement. It's just not just for Baron Morton's sake, but for Taj as well.
Yeah.
That can open up his game. And, a Heisman, I'm not saying he's not a Heisman candidate just because he's not on a team, a named team that is likely to challenge for the playoffs or anything like that. But he could put up Heisman-type numbers if the offensive line can help him out a little bit. So, I mean, I love the running game. And so, I'm looking forward to that.
I think Tech's personnel, like people think that, like I'll say, they need to do a heavier or put a heavier personnel on the field, that kind of thing. And they think that I just like that stylistically. I don't care. I want Tech to win. I feel like the personnel they have right now says 12 personnel, big tight ends, line up and let Taj do his thing. That's my opinion. And then work off of that, of course, not just abandon the passing game. I really don't care. But how you do it, however you want to skin the cat, as long as that cat gets skinned, Going back to Dickey, though, he rolled his ankle early in fall camp, or I think he would have already maybe been considered the number 2 running back. Just because when it comes to pass protection, who are they going to trust? Yeah, right. And I think they trust Dickey in that role more than Valdez, though Valdez does bring another element as an elusive home run hitter. We've seen that some. He hadn't received enough opportunities, I think, because they don't trust him in pass pro. But when we have seen him, 2 yards, 3 yards, 35 yards. You know what I mean? So he does have that ability. Much like true freshman Jacoby Williams, who I believe will redshirt. I don't think we'll see a lot, but I think we'll see in the opener. Going to receivers, let's stick with true freshmen. The guy everybody wants to see play, can't wait, including myself, Micah Hudson out of Temple, Texas, Lake Belton High School, 5-star recruit. He is going to play. McGuire said he's not going to redshirt. He's going to play in every game. They're going to get the ball in his hands. He's lining up outside. What do you think?
Yeah, this is probably, the most anticipated recruit that Tech has had around here and forever. So there's a lot of that going around, wanting to see what he can do with the ball in his hands. So, to come in as a true freshman and already crack the 2 deep, that's not bad. I mean, there's a lot of big-time recruits come in, and they're not sniffing that, early on in the season. And he's there for the season opener.
Yeah.
So that suggests to me that, it's not all just hype, that he really is making some positive impressions in camp. So I expect him to get quite a few balls thrown his way, and I expect him to do something with it. And certainly against this type of an opponent, it's an opportunity for him to kind of get his feet wet and get into the groove a little bit. But it's going to be very interesting to watch. Yeah,
it is. And he's starting outside, but he did tell me earlier in camp that they have some packages where he's in the slot. They're going to move him around. He lined up in the backfield some in high school as well, so he has that ability. Josh Kelly, Cameron Douglas, or a couple other newcomers, transfers who came in. Douglas from Florida, and he started before injuries derailed his season there. But he was very impressive in the spring game, has looked good as much as I've been able to tell in fall camp or back in fall camp. Josh Kelly, I absolutely believe, is a stud. Whether you ask Ben Roberts on defense or a safety or defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, quarterback, everybody seems to talk about Josh Kelly, his elusiveness, his catching ability, all that, working out of the slot. He had about 900 or 809 or 900 yards and 8 touchdowns last year at Washington State. He's proven. I believe he's going to be the leading receiver for Texas Tech.
Well, could be, and basically out of these new guys, including Hudson and the 2 transfers you mentioned, what I want to see most is a little bit more explosiveness out of the receiving corps.
Absolutely.
I just didn't see a whole lot of dynamic aspects from the receivers last year, and there just wasn't anybody to really scare the defense too much.
No.
And
it was supposed to be Bradley, and it just never materialized.
It never happened. And he's gone.
Yeah.
And so that's what these guys really need to do. I mean, they need to open up this offense and sort of make it blossom a little bit downfield. We think the potential is there for that to happen. And it needs to happen. It really does, because that will make a world of difference. You'd like to be able to hit some explosive plays and get some TDs where you you hit it for 50 yards down the seam instead of having to march it for 7 or 8 or 9 minutes, 80 yards. That gets a little bit arduous. So some explosive plays out of the receivers would be a huge benefit.
And another guy I'm actually excited about, even though he's not a shiny new toy, is Coy Aiken. He was injured each of the last 2 preseasons. Last year, he didn't even play in non-conference. He came on, don't get me wrong, he dropped some passes, he had some struggles, but overall, I think he showed himself to be a reliable receiver. And you know him and Barron are tight, so you know Barron's going to look for him on 3rd down situations, that kind of thing. I think he's more explosive than people realize. Right. He was very explosive at Stephenville. I know it's a different level. I get it, but he's been here a couple of years. He's healthy, as far as I know. As of earlier this week, he was. And I talked to him about that in fall camp, and he was very excited about that. Those setbacks really bothered him, kind of hindered him really getting off to a good start, both of those 2 seasons. But I think he's a very good player. I honestly believe the receiving core is improved. I am, show me, don't tell me, but I've seen these guys, even the newcomers, they were here in the spring. They do seem quicker, more explosive. I saw that in the spring game. Definitely some big plays down the field. One of those guys, going over to the next position group, that I think may surprise some folks. Maybe not now, enough people have talked about it, but John Carlos Miller. Mason Tharp, obviously, is the starter. A lot's expected of him. Hopefully he can stay healthy.
Yes.
They brought in Jalen Conyers, former big-time recruit, good receiving target, big target at tight end. But John Carlos Miller is one of those guys that as soon as you walk into practice, you're like, who is this guy? And you start looking at your roster, like, who is this guy? And then he made some big plays in the spring, back in the spring game, and looked really good in fall camp as well. So look for him to go out there. I know he's got a couple of guys ahead of him, and I definitely think he's the future next year. But I think they're going to look to get him the ball this year. I think he's that dynamic as an athlete. And he's another guy who I think, I know he appears to be much better than what everybody thought he was going to be, except for maybe James Blanchard, who just walked by the way.
Yeah, well, I mean, that unit tied in, again, assuming Tharp stays healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, you got everything you need right there.
Yeah.
You got a veteran, huge tight end who can run. You figure if Mason Tharp can stay healthy and show the ability to be physical in the run game, that he's an NFL prospect, potentially a draftable player, right? Conyers, obviously a big name guy and a good receiver, and John Carlos as well has pretty much the entire package. So I mean, you're absolutely loaded at that position, and that just argues again for getting those guys on the field as often as possible, and that 21 personnel or 12 personnel, or whatever. Who knows? Maybe you you do 13 personnel from time to time as well. I don't know. Get all 3 of those guys out there.
Just go goal line.
Yeah, that's right. Right. Or just split one out into the. You can put Tharp in the slot a little bit. So why not? But that's an absolute strength of the offense and the team, and it's just a matter of Tharp staying healthy, and that unit will be one of the best in the country at that position.
I believe it has that potential. I really do. You have Jason Llewellyn, also who transferred in from Oklahoma. I think he's a very good blocking tight end, but also can be a receiver, especially in short yardage situations. Now, guys, from Aledo, former 4-star recruit from Oklahoma, he has the potential to be a very good player. So I think, in conclusion, what we want to see from the offense first is Barron stay healthy, the offense be efficient, but also be explosive in a perfect world, right?
Yep, and a whole lot of that depends on how the offensive line comes together, and does it improve considerably over what we've seen the last several years.
All right, Mighty Joe. Well, I think we covered it. Texas Tech kicks off the season against Abilene Christian, 6:30 Saturday night right here at the Jones. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for watching, and until next time.